Hi, my name is Rebecca Fannin. I'm the host of our show, Silicon Dragon Talk. So Gary and Chris, thank you very much for being here. Today there's so much news already. September has kicked into high gear. There's a lot of tech news. What do you make of the advances that Apple is doing, and how do you think that they compare to what we're seeing out of China today?
Well, I think for me personally, the most interesting part was actually the watch. The iPhone is a bigger screen, even better design, faster, and the CEO said that it's probably the biggest advancement in terms of the iPhone since it's been launched originally, and whether you buy that or not, the market will be the judge in the coming weeks once it goes out. But for me, the most interesting part was the watch, because it is a category opener. I mean, there's been already a lot of work in the wearables sector in the past few years, but there hasn't been a major breakthrough. And there hasn't been a major breakthrough because it was a lot of smaller individual players that were launching mostly fitness trackers and a lot of cool hardware with very poor software to go along with it. And a lot of these devices have so far, let's call it generation one of wearable devices, have to a large extent failed so far because they're not catchy enough, and people dump these devices after a month or 6 weeks, let's say, of using them, because they don't really provide so much actionable insight, and a small company that doesn't have Google's or Apple's ecosystem power around it is very difficult to actually create something that will stick. Now this is the first such wearable device that not only has all the different sensors that your phones already have, but it actually looks like it also has a medical related sensor, a sensor that is going to be able to give you information around your well-being. And that is something really different, and I personally look forward to actually seeing it first, because we haven't really felt and touched it yet. But as with the iPhone, as with the iPod before that, it looks like it's a category opener, and we investors like category openers.
Sure. Well, it has some new payment mechanisms in it as well. So if you go into a retail outlet, you can use your mobile device and pay on the spot. But that's already been going on in China, right?
Well, vis-a-vis China, what was announced yesterday was really a non-event. I think if you look at the watch, again, as Chris said, we have to wait to see what happens with the watch. The specifications, the look and the feel, the usability, none of that is actually yet to be determined. Specifically on the phone and payments, you already have Tenpay, you already have Alipay, you already have the Baidu relationships that they have. I don't think the payment items that Apple introduced yesterday really are anything innovative at all vis-a-vis what's already happening in the China market, or arguably what's happening in Kenya, with the M-Pesa system that's quite widely used down there. So that part, I don't think this was really a breakthrough announcement, innovative announcement for Apple. I think what it was it brings them back up to possibly, most likely, being best in class in phones. I think it's 55 to 60% of the iPhones in the field today are more than 2 years old. So the upgrade opportunity for them is staggering. If all they do is just replace all of those with the new iPhone, that's going to carry the revenue and profit line for a long time. The phone, we'll see. And payments, what they're really doing is saying, we're going to create an entire ecosystem. So the wearable is one item in that. The phone's always been another. iTunes is another. Now they're saying, so for this initial set of payment customers and clients, we're creating, again, this entire ecosystem. They've been criticized today in the press because well, they're not open to everything. Apple's never been the one to be open. They're the one to say, we're going to provide our users the best possible experience. So from that standpoint, I think it was great for China. I don't think any of the companies competing with Apple in China need to be afraid of what Apple announced. For Apple, I think it was also a great announcement because I think it reinforced their relative strengths, particularly here in the U.S., and we'll see what happens overseas.
Yeah, so as China tech innovation takes off, are we beginning to see a reverse tide where some ideas are being copied and implemented here in the U.S. that were originated in China? And if that's not happening now, do you foresee that happening in the future?
I think it is happening, but I think you cannot like give it as a blanket statement, because it's obviously very sector specific. So I think
what sectors in particular?
Well, consumer mobile applications in China have leapfrogged, I think, their Western counterparts already, and that's purely because the Chinese developers are dealing with probably the toughest consumer market in the world. You're talking about a user that has very little loyalty to any application, that wants everything mianfeide, as the Chinese say, for free. It's a very, very tough user base in China. So the developers in China that are successful or have built successful applications, they don't even realize, or they're just about now starting to realize actually their place in the world, and what interesting products they have created. Now, taking their products from the Chinese market to the rest of the world is a whole other situation, and it has a lot of other issues and challenges for Chinese startups. But then there is the flip side too. There are other sectors that I think over here are still at least a couple of years ahead. There's a lot of areas where the average technical background founder in China still doesn't want to touch. So the entire B2B,
like what?
Let's say the entire B2B enterprise software segment is only just starting right now in China. China doesn't have a Salesforce.com. It doesn't have productivity tools. It doesn't have platform as a service. Developer tools, believe it or not, for the largest market of developers in the world, both numerically and also in terms of quality, ever increasing, there's actually a tremendously little amount of attention to infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, analytics tools, data science as a service, even machine learning tools that actually the Chinese developers can use to improve their products. So they're actually all still looking to Silicon Valley startups for these kind of services. So these are still very interesting spaces to actually invest over here with a US to China cross-border angle. But then on the consumer mobile stuff, there's a lot of direction now coming over here. And the one thing I can tell you for sure is that every mature Silicon Valley company actually has Chinese engineers at junior and at senior levels, and a lot of these engineers are very closely monitoring what's happening back home. So a lot of ideas are going to come the other way, thanks to the Chinese talent that is working here in Silicon Valley.
I think that one of the changes that's occurring, if you talk about the sector, Chris mentioned on enterprise software. On the internet, I think now the lag time between an invention here or an innovation here and innovation in China, probably it's as fast as the network speed connecting the two countries that you start to see those things copied or built upon. On enterprise software, as many things in China, it's really has been about the need. You really didn't have a driving need when you had such inexpensive labor. Productivity and efficiency was never the primary concern. So now that the labor cost is going up, Chinese companies have to focus more on productivity and efficiency. Those are software issues. Those are enterprise software issues. So we're starting to see, at least for our latest investment pace, healthcare has been very strong. Internet has been stable. The core IT enterprise software area has jumped quite a bit. And I think that that's because of the need. You have enough people, you have the money, now you have the need within the market. And I think that will start to drive more and more creative companies. Initially, why would they do the work of trying to come up with something that has never been done in the U.S.? Initially, you're going to see NetSuite-like companies, and you're going to see Workday-like companies. And I think that that's just common sense, that that's the direction it's going to go. I think we also, in healthcare, the other big wave is Chinese device manufacturers have now come up with some products that Medtronic, Edwards, and a number of companies here actually don't have yet. And then they're looking to go overseas. But they're not necessarily looking to come to the U.S. They're looking to go to India, Africa, and other places because they now are building and testing products to a world standard. So their product fits in very nicely in those markets. So I think the flows of technology, once China's now reached critical mass, you're going to see more and more technology and innovation occurring in interesting places.
And on that note, thank you very much, Gary and Chris, for being here today on Silicon Dragon Talk.
Pleasure.
And,
Our pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.